I'm Angela Ortíz. I'm here with Mr. Chris Weitz. And for those of you who don't know your connection to the Latino community, your abuelita is Lupita Tovar, and she did a role that I really love in the Spanish version of Dracula. Mm-hmm. It's still one of my favorite. And your grandmother's...
My grandmother is still alive. She's going to turn 104 in July.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And you, of course, did one of my favorite films, A Better Life, with Damien Bichir, who got an Oscar nom on that, and that was very exciting.
That was extremely exciting.
And you grew up in the industry.
Well, I mean, I grew up in New York. I grew up with you know, my mom was an actress. She was in a film called Imitation of Life, which is also kind of a big
great film.
Yeah. And my grandfather was an agent. He started his own agency, and my grandma, of course, and my uncle is a producer. So although I grew up on the East Coast, I had all this family out here. And the interesting thing was that by the time it came to try to start a career here, none of these connections actually mattered because they were all from the 1930s to the 1950s. Oh, let me stop that. I apologize.
Live recording.
Sorry about that. And so, you know, my brother and I kind of had to start again, as it were.
But having knowing that in your background stuff, do you think that's one of the reasons why you and Paul are so prolific in your writing and producing and even directing?
I think it is because, you know, when we used to visit in the summers, and when I was a little kid, and we met all these amazing filmmakers, kind of by chance. They were just the people who were hanging around with my grandfather and grandmother. So I met John Huston when I was a little kid. I met Ingmar Bergman when I was a little kid. I didn't, at the time, form from that any idea of acting, of making movies or acting or directing or anything like that. But later, it meant that I sort of had a sense of movies, of movie history, which a lot of people who start in the industry now don't really have because they don't think it's necessary. But to me, you know, it was the classic movies that really inspired us.
Yes, I agree with I love classic films myself. And now, out of all the process that you do, the writing, the producing, director, which one gives you the biggest rush?
Part of the process gives me the most rush. Well, I mean, it's really exciting to be on a set and to be the position of director. You're in the center of this big swirl of activity, and it's very tense, but it's also you know, problem solving on a grand scale in some ways. How are we going to get the scene? How are we going to get the scheduled day? How are we going to get the performance out of this actor? Is this making sense? When is lunch? So that stuff is very exciting. It also kind of wears on your nerves. But I have to say that's the real thing. You know, shooting a movie while it's happening is the most exciting thing. You know, then there's editing, which is a lot more cerebral. Writing, which is lonely and sometimes satisfying, but often pretty wearing. So I'd have to say directing.
Well, I'm going to kind of put you on a bit of a spot here of the two franchises that you've been involved with, American Pie and the Twilight Saga. Mm-hmm. Which is your fave?
Oh gosh, I'd have to say American Pie because you know, that was the first movie that my brother and I directed. So we had never directed a frame of film. My brother and I directed plays. But we were learning on the job, as it were, and we learned from our DP and from our first AD, and that was an amazing introduction to the world of making movies. And also, we were with all of these young actors who were doing things for the first time. They were very excited, we were very excited, and we didn't know any better. We didn't know the kind of mistakes you could make. We didn't know that we were supposed to feel incredibly stressed about the money that the studio was spending, all that kind of stuff. And as a result, the film itself kind of, every time I see it, I think of the great time we had doing it and how kind of improvisatory a lot of it was, and what a charmed life that movie had. With something like New Moon, as the second in a series, I'm coming in to try to sort of deliver to an already existing fan base something that they have really strong opinions about. So that's a lot more stressful. But that was also great because the fans are so enthusiastic.
Yes, they are.
And they really want to see you succeed. They don't want to see you fail, which is a nice thing. There's a tremendous amount of support.
You and your brother Paul had a wonderful hit some years back about a boy, which a very fun film.
Thank you.
And now you're involved also with the television series.
No, we're not involved with the television series. We decided, they tried to make a television series about a boy shortly after the film came out, and we sort of felt, the movie was the point, and it sort of ends where it's supposed to end, and that's that as far as we're concerned. And now they did a pilot of that, which didn't work, and now they've done one which appears to be working really well. And I wish them well, but it wasn't really, I think, in the interest of the guys making the TV show or of us.
So you guys aren't. For some reason, I thought you guys were writers on it. But.
I believe they credit the screenplay as the adapted source now. So it's an adaptation of an adaptation.
That's a slick way of doing it. So what other projects are you working on right now?
I just saw the rough cut of Cinderella, the Disney live-action movie Cinderella, which was directed by Ken Branagh and which I wrote. So that's been really exciting, living in princess world for. Actually, she's not a princess; she becomes a queen. But for about 2 years, I've been working on that, which has been a lot of fun. And I have a book that I wrote, which is coming out in the end of July, and I am adapting that for film. So I've been doing a lot of writing.
What's the name of the book?
The book is called The Young World, and it's a young adult novel.
Oh.
I figured I've been spending enough time with young adults that I should write something.
That's pretty good. Now, do you have, well, this is sort of like a two-part. Do you have any plans in the near future to do another Latino themed film, or you haven't found the right project yet?
Well, I don't really have, right now I don't have any plans to do, to direct another film, and I sort of don't until I do. Sometimes I think it's a really hard thing to do, and it takes at least a year of your life during which you are not, I think, capable of being a good husband and father because you're away so much of the time. So I take really seriously what my next gig is going to be. In terms of a Latino movie, actually I saw an article that really interested me that I thought could be good, which was about I believe she was Honduran, a little girl who she traveled. She was trying to meet up with her family in the States, and she went on her own. She was it was paid for by her parents in the States, but she went all the way through Central America and Mexico, and she died in I think it was in Juarez before seeing her family. She committed suicide, actually. If you can imagine that, a child doing that. And that I found that incredibly poignant and moving. And in some ways, it's kind of the same theme as A Better Life. And I haven't really done anything with it, but I do find there's something that Odyssey. It's a sort of almost a folk tale of this little girl trying to get to her family. But that being said, I don't think that all Latino film movies have to be downers or anything like that. I think actually the best thing will be when movies come out with Latino actors, directors, writers, and it won't really make a difference. It won't have to like be spicy or sad or anything like that. It'll just sort of be what it is.
A wonderful story to tell.
Yeah.
So it's like I saw you talk to a group of students, and you had made a statement which I found very honest of you, and you had said someone had asked you a question, and your answer was that you were very fortunate growing up, as you actually said, as a white kid on the west side.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was a really honest statement. And so what advice would you give to those up and coming filmmakers that don't have that advantage but have stories to tell?
Yeah, well, of course, in a way, I'm the last person to be able to tell people how to do that. And there's this thing called survivorship bias where people think that because somebody's successful at something, they actually have the answers as to what to avoid. In fact, it's usually just because they've been lucky. So I've been terribly lucky. But I would say that the great thing is that the equipment needed to tell a story on film or on video is less expensive and more accessible than it ever was. The access to distribution is better than it ever was, in that you can make a film and put it up on YouTube or Vimeo. And indeed, I've seen movies made for nothing, for a shoestring, that were more interesting to me than anything I've seen in theaters. And the way to get your best shot, I think, is to realize that, it's always, everybody's got a story to tell. It's how well it's told. And I think that the clue to how to tell things well is in the work of people who've come before. So, as well as the fact that people have a tremendous chance to put stuff out, there's also an amazing amount of stuff that is out there to see. There are entire movies on YouTube, classic movies. There's Netflix, which if you don't have an account, borrow somebody's password. And you can see an amazing amount of incredible film, and by doing that, you sort of think, in a very simple sense, you think, oh wow, so there's a wide shot, and then there's a two shot, and then close-ups. Oh, I get it. Oh, this is interesting, the way that they move the camera there. Or it's interesting where this scene begins and ends. And you have the ability to give yourself a film school education without going to film school.
Well, Chris, thank you. That was very full. It actually gave me ideas. Thank you for letting me be here with you this morning
Thank you for coming.
to do this, and looking forward to your next project.
Thank you very much.